Hey now, everyone, welcome back to a very special edition of the Entertainment Buddhacast BuddhaTube offshoot special. I'm here with my friend Nick Caminita, and we are here to pledge to you a new Star Wars-centric series of Buddhacasts. I know, don't get too excited, don't drive off the road, but we are going to dedicate at least 2 podcasts a month to talking all things Star Wars. Why is that? Well, because Star Wars is back, my friends, thanks to J.J. Abrams' Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, which, at least for someone like me that was a little jaded from the prequels, can now reappreciate and re-understand why I've devoted my life to loving the Star Wars franchise. So we thought it'd be a good idea to just talk about it because there's plenty to talk about these days. We've got the Star Wars Stories one-off movies coming out. We've got the trilogy going on. We've got Star Wars Rebels. We have Star Wars in comics. I mean, Star Wars is back and it is in full swing. So we decided let's just talk about this shit because there's a lot of stuff to talk about, especially ridiculous fan speculations. So that's going to be today's topic. We're always going to have a topic for these. We'll talk about, crazy rumors we may have heard or speculations, and then cover any recent Star Wars movie news. So before we get into today's topic, just want to introduce again Nick Caminita down there in Tejas. Nick, how's it going, buddy?
Pretty good, man. I'm really excited about this cast. I talked to you a little bit about this, and I think I may have pushed you over. You weren't sure about it, but I was like, man, Star Wars. So much news. There's never going to be any downtime for Star Wars now for like the next however many years Disney wants to keep it going. So I think it's a great idea that we do this at least twice a month.
I agree. And I'm actually finding myself on entertainmentbuddha.com actually covering more movie stuff and Star Wars anyways these days than video games because it's like, well, shit, it's back and it's better than ever. I can't get enough of it. So yeah, I agree. I thank you for the prodding and the pushing. And according to Bob Iger, the head of Disney, they're going to pump out Marvel and Star Wars movies until the end of time. So I think we'll have plenty to talk about for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, man.
So, Nick, as we prepped before turning on the mics here, today's topic revolves around Supreme Leader Snoke, who, of course, we first met in The Force Awakens. We don't know much about the Supreme Leader besides the fact that at a young age, he kind of convinced Ben Solo to cast aside his Skywalker Solo roots and pursue a path towards the dark side. And these days, it's been clear there's no longer Sith, really. It's this Ben Solo, or Kylo Ren, as you may know him, is classified as a new archetype of a Force user who has very strong ties to both light and dark. So, with Snoke, we don't know much besides he's a hologram and he may be a very large being or he may be very small. Who knows? But I think one thing we can draw a conclusion on is that Snoke knows about the Force, probably has mastered it on the dark side end, because there's no way this Kylo Ren figure looks up to him and begs him for training if Snoke doesn't know what the fuck he's doing with the Force. So I'm putting it out there right now. Snoke's a Force user. What do you think, Nick? I mean,
I gotta agree with you on that, man. I mean, one of the first lines he says in The Force Awakens, like, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen yet, but if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, like, stop and go see the movie.
Well, tough shit at this point. I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, you're a commie in the first place.
Yeah, man, there's something wrong with you. But one of his first lines is, "There has been an awakening. Have you felt it as well?" So clearly, he has felt something in the Force to tell him that there is some kind of, light side Force awakening that just occurred. And that really gives it to you within the first 30 seconds of meeting this character. This guy's a Force user. He's pretty strong in the Force to be able to feel something even as minute as, what he has felt. And, like you said, he convinced Ben Solo, probably one of the stronger Force users in the galaxy right now, to kind of switch his allegiances away from his uncle and join the dark side of the Force.
Yeah, I think that's a given. The other thing we know is that Snoke was around. He watched the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire, the fall of the Empire, and of course the rise of the New Republic and the First Order. So he's at least been around since the Clone Wars, probably even before that. So I mean, this guy has seen it all. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, one of the great things about the novelization and some of the, you know, the behind the scenes books that are out, we do find out that Snoke respects Vader and is kind of molding Kylo to be Vader, but he realized out of all of Vader's amazing accomplishments as a bad dude, he had one single failure, one momentary lapse of judgment, and it was because of his sentiment for his son. And that's something he's been working over in Kylo's mind. Like, yo, fuck the Skywalkers, fuck the Solos. If you ever want to be Vader or bigger and better and badder than Vader, you need to cut your fucking ties, do it like a man, don't have sentiment, and, you know, therefore that's why Kylo stabs his dad in the fucking chest. The other thing about that scene, I know we're a little off topic already, but that's how we roll, I think it is the novelization that once Kylo kills his dad, he thinks, based on Snoke's teachings, that he's going to just feel strong and like, fuck, I'm ready now. But he actually was blown away by how weak killing his dad made him, and that's what allowed Chewbacca to fucking shoot him in the gut.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of showed in the movie, you can tell he's a little stunned, but then he gets shot, and you're like, whoa, I've never seen, outside of the ridiculous murder in Order 66, where these, you know, a spectacular Jedi get mowed down by clone trooper homies in like a second, but you never see Jedis just get shot.
No.
Or Force users in general, so... Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, Snoke knows what's up. He's seen how the galaxy has been shaped to this point. He has a plan. His plan is we need to make Kylo Ren Darth Vader, but the Darth Vader with no sentiment. So anyways.
Vader 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. So who is this guy? Well, there's 4 theories going on out there right now. And we're going to discuss 4 of the theories, and we're going to start with the ones that are the most ludicrous. Like there's one that just there's no fucking way, and it perplexes me that people could even come up with this conclusion that this is who Snoke is. And the theory I'm talking about, Nick, is the one where people think that Snoke is Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker.
My God. When I first heard this, I was insulted as a Star Wars fan.
Right? I mean, you just like, go, what the fuck movies have you guys been watching?
Exactly. And I mean, like, I think this all came from like a 2-shot that somebody put up of, you know, when Darth Vader removed his helmet in Episode 6, revealed his real face, and they kind of put that right next to Snoke's face, and the wounds are similar. You know, there's a cut on the head, there's some damage to the upper facial region. So if you look at those 2 pictures right next to each other, you could assume or, you know, draw a conclusion without having any context. Like, if you knew nothing about Star Wars and you saw these 2 pictures, you could be like, okay, those 2 guys could be the same person. But, like, within the context of the universe and of the movies that we've already seen, it is absolutely ludicrous to believe that Snoke is Vader. I mean, we see him die in Episode 6, and if by some just insane idea that, you know, J.J. Abrams decided to bring him back, I would feel like that would be the biggest stab in the back to all Star Wars fans around the world.
That would be the jump in the shark moment, even though you could argue the prequels were the jump the shark for the Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, there's no way, people. This is nuts. And here's why it's nuts. I mean, Nick brought it up. Vader's fucking dead. He died because the Emperor's lightning fucking shorted out his suit. He needs a suit to live. He fucking died. His son lit him on fire. His grandson has his ashes in his fucking meditation room with his burnt-ass helmet. We also see Anakin Skywalker come back as a Force ghost, okay? Live Jedis or live Force users don't separate their spirit out from themselves still to go hang out with their buddies at a party in Ewok Village, okay? Darth Vader's fucking dead, plain and simple. He is not Supreme Leader Snoke. And the scars, honestly, if you really look at them, don't even match up. I mean, Snoke's head scar goes almost down towards his eye.
Yeah.
So that's the first speculation, and then that is by far the most ridiculous one.
Yeah.
So if you're someone out there that believes this, smack yourself in the face, rewatch Return of the Jedi, and get with the program.
And one other thing is, like, if he was Vader, don't you think that he would tell Kylo? Like, that would be stronger than anything to try to get Kylo to come to your side and be like, hey, man,
exactly.
On the DL, like, I'm Vader.
Exactly.
Like, I'm him. And then that would just be, like, instant. He wouldn't even think about it. He'd be like, oh, you're, okay, I'm with you 100%. Like, it's just a poorly thought out theory.
Here's the other thing, really, another one that crushes it, and it never made it to light in The Force Awakens, but at one point in time, they had thoughts of bringing back Anakin's Force Ghost in The Force Awakens, and the Force Ghost was going to kind of almost look like Anakin, but Vader's still kind of bleeding through, because they've explained it. Yeah, I mean, at the end, Vader did redeem himself, but he never fully was able to come back to the light. You know, like a Kenobi or Luke or Yoda. I mean, he still is, because of all that shit and all the years he let the dark side take over him, it's just impossible for him to just flip the switch and become good again. And that's really the conflict that the Skywalkers have had in general with the Force, is they are the strongest family in the Force, but they're strong on both sides. Mm-hmm. Every Skywalker has felt the pull.
Yeah, I was going to say, they feel that pull to the darkness, and it's not a bad thing. You know, a lot of people will associate the dark side and what you've seen from Anakin and now from Kylo as, you know, whiny, emotional shit. But, I mean, you know, I don't think that there is a person on this planet who hasn't gone through some emotional moments in their life. So, I mean, to try to detract from the greatness of Darth Vader's character, or, you know, the badass, you know, character that is Kylo Ren, just because they show a little emotion now and then, is kind of, you know, slap in the face.
Yeah. I love Vader, and it still pains me how they portrayed his upbringing, because that's, in my head, I never had that vision of how Vader became Vader, but whatever.
Yeah,
that's for a different cast, different day, but just
much better.
Fucking shame.
Much better.
Yeah, this is a shame. I almost hope Disney at one point is like, you know what, let's just fucking reboot the prequels.
That would be beautiful. I would love that.
Yeah, let's just fucking throw out the first three. They don't even exist in canon anymore. We're just going to do them ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the ultimate just bitch slap to George Lucas. But, I mean, at this point, he's made his billions from it, so he doesn't need to
yeah, he sold his rights to the slavers of Disney, as he calls them. So, all right, so let's get into the next theory on who Supreme Leader Snoke is. And this one, again, I think is pretty ridiculous. It would be a long stretch. There's a little bit more validity to it than the Vader thing, but I still think it's nuts. And that is Supreme Leader Snoke is Grand Moff Wilhelm Tarkin. For those of you who do not know who the hell he is, he's the guy in A New Hope who's kind of Vader's boss. He's the one that blows up Alderaan, even after Leia gives him the, you know, bullshit information, but she gives him information. I mean, he's an all-around bad guy. We got to see him at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I believe, too. He's a real brief glimpse on the the bridge there, where Vader and the Emperor are looking at the shell of the first Death Star. I believe he's in the Clone Wars cartoons.
He is as well, and he's in the that Clone Wars movie as well, the cartoon Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, so I mean, he's out there, and I always thought Tarkin was a great bad guy in the first one. Even almost more so than Vader, because at that point you look at Vader and you're almost like, yeah, this guy takes fucking orders from people. You know, he's not really part of the army. I mean, he's not really part of the Imperial Armed Forces, but he takes orders from the Moffs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the great thing about Tarkin, is that you get introduced to him after, you know, they storm the Tantive 4, and you see how badass Vader is. So you have this perception of Darth Vader that he is this ultimate galaxy-killing badass, and then you see him taking orders from Tarkin on the Death Star, and then you're immediately like, whoa, okay, so this guy is giving orders to Vader, so this dude must really be a bad motherfucker.
Well, Leia even says it. She's like, you know, I'm not surprised to find you at the end of Vader's leash, implying that, you know, Vader is essentially a guard dog, a pit bull for the Empire, which he is. If you people haven't read the comics or anything like that, even the new ones, the Emperor doesn't have much love for Vader. I don't know if you've read them, Nick. I don't know if you know like some of the history there, but once Vader goes and gets all of his arms and shit cut off, the Emperor was kind of disappointed because he knew that he would never fully become the power that Anakin with arms and legs could have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he couldn't do the Force lightning. I mean, he lost a lot of his abilities because, I mean, I don't know how you construe it, Nick, but don't you kind of feel like he almost needs the Force and his suit just to stay alive?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that a lot of his Force energy is just used to keep himself going. I mean, if you've read, I know, like, the Legends series is now non-canonical, but, like, in the Legends series, like, the first book that you read after Vader becomes, you know, in the suit, after he becomes this, you know, more machine than man, you see the struggle of him trying to just adjust to life in the suit, and that's still true, I'm sure, in the new comic series and everything like that. It's a completely different plane of existence he's on now. He's not just living like you or I. He has to literally use the Force to keep himself to where he can move around and just kind of live and do everyday tasks.
Well, yeah, we even see it in Empire when he's in his meditation chamber to, you know, remove his helmet and fucking chill out and all that shit. So yeah, I mean, he struggles to live, which obviously limited his potential. I mean, as Anakin Skywalker, the dude was unstoppable. I mean, he's by far the greatest Jedi anyone ever saw. The shit he could do was amazing. But he was tarnished, and that always bummed the Emperor out. And he'd always test Vader by bringing in other Sith apprentices to try and kill Vader. I mean, this is all happening in the canon Marvel comics now, like the Vader series and even some of the just the straight Star Wars comic. You even see now that Vader's always plotting to fucking take over, get rid of the Emperor, and the Emperor's always trying to kill Vader. I mean, that's the Sith mentality in general. But these two never really loved each other, but Vader always had to respect his master because that's the way of the Sith, and he always thought that his master would one day teach him the secret of everlasting life.
Yeah, and that was one thing that, you know, they kind of put in there into the new canon now, is that, like, after Vader kind of came out of his haze of, you know, all the surgeries and being in the suit, like, he had a strong dislike for the Emperor. He didn't look up to him like he used to when he was still Anakin Skywalker, looking up to, you know, Chancellor Palpatine. That relationship had kind of ended. It was a completely different dynamic. Like you said, both of them were trying to kill each other. So there was no love lost between these two, and it was it was pretty contentious, if not outright hostile, between these two guys.
Yeah, so, you know, Vader, he was always number 2 to the Emperor, but he was never really... I mean, obviously the Imperial forces respected the hell out of him. They were scared of him because he'd just fucking choke you out and kill you. But you could tell Tarkin didn't fear Vader one bit. And as far as Tarkin's validity as Snoke, it's very slim. And then there's really two big items. Tarkin isn't a Force user. If he was a closet Force user, but that's really grasping at straws. 2, the motherfucker blew up on the Death Star. You know, Nick and I were talking about this before we went live, and if you have watched A New Hope recently, you probably know the exact moment, but literally, as Tarkin gives a command to fire on Yavin 4, Luke's proton torpedoes go down the tube and blow his ass up. There's no way that dude got off the Death Star. There is no way. And that thing blew the fuck up. I mean, he became space dust at that point in time. Yeah,
there was... And then, like, I'm reading the theories, because obviously a lot of this stuff is coming from Reddit. It's coming from fans like you and I. And the theory, you know, goes on to say that you don't see him die on screen, which, okay, fine. If you're going to use that as the basis for your theory, fine, he didn't die on screen. But there is a very, like Matt said, the thing blew up literally the instant after he said fire.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the fucking command bridge giving, you know, saying, let's do it. Blow these fuckers up.
And it's not like, you know, there was no chance. I mean, it would have to be a miracle and a half for him to survive that. I mean, there's just no possible way. There's no way that it could be explained that he lived through that explosion.
Well, unless Star Wars now has transporters like Star Trek, there's no way you can explain that one away.
You just got he just got beamed up at the last second.
Yeah.
But even like, yeah, it was just too fast. And then the fact that he's not a Force user, and again, the Reddit theory goes on to say that there is no explicit proof yet that Snoke is a Force user. Like, meaning that we haven't seen him use the Force. He hasn't Force influenced anybody. He hasn't mind tricked. He hasn't, Force pushed anybody through a wall or whatever. But it's pretty implicitly stated in that movie that he is a Force user.
Yeah, I mean, you're not one of the strongest Force users out there, and you seek training from some dude that doesn't know how to use the Force. And I'm talking about Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. I mean, he doesn't look to Snoke for training if Snoke is not a master of the Force.
Yeah, and in terms of like placement in the list of theories that we're going to talk about, it's more plausible than Vader, but other than that, it's still a very far
the only
away.
thing it has going for it is that Tarkin would have been around to, during the Republic, before the Clone Wars. He would have saw all the events happen that we know Snoke has lived through. And if you look at the bone structure, I guess, I mean, there's sometimes I look at Snoke and I can't even tell if he's fucking human. I mean, he's humanoid, but I don't know if he's a fucking full-on human or if he's some alien that's, still has 2 arms and 2 legs. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of alien races in the Star Wars franchise that are humanoid looking, that look a lot like humans. Even if you look back to Utapau in Episode 3, those were very humanoid looking figures. They obviously had different features in their face and among their body, but still they looked essentially like humans.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I mean, Twi'leks. There's tons of humanoid races in the Star Wars universe. It's just, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think I'd be overly disappointed if Tarkin got in, but it'd be pretty stupid.
Yeah, I think that would kind of break my suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, they would almost need to go back and show how he got off the Death Star for me to even remotely buy into it.
Yeah, and like we said, if you haven't seen Episode 4 recently and you've watched The Force Awakens, you might have that whole scene of Starkiller Base's implosion in your mind. That's not how the first Death Star went down. Like, Starkiller Base, General Hux had time to get out. Everybody who was important had time to get their ass off before the planet went.
We understand. There's a lot of people out there that don't understand that in a 2-hour movie, you could actually traverse months, if not years of time. I mean, some people just don't get that. I'm not saying The Force Awakens took 2 years. I mean, that was a quick bang, bang, bang. But, I mean, just in TV, too. I mean, I was just watching the last season of Vikings, and in one episode, it literally covered a year's worth of time.
Yeah.
So some people can't pick up on that shit.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're one of those people who has trouble, I mean, if I had to put an estimate on it, the destruction of Starkiller Base probably took 30 minutes. You had a good amount of time to get off. I mean, they knew as soon as those fuel cells erupted that it was going down. Like, they had a scene, I'm pretty sure there's a scene in the movie.
Hux goes in, he goes, Snoke, hey, we're fucked, Snoke, can I leave? And Snoke's like, yeah, get Ren and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so I'm sure there were times for and then there were even the lower officers on the bridge that were like, look, Hux is already gone, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
Screw this shit. No, so...
Yeah.
So, in the novelization, they do explain how Kylo gets off. Hux gets a shuttle and picks his dead ass up, so yes.
Yeah. So... But then for Episode 4, like we said, man, Tarkin says fire, and then the next thing you see is boom explosion.
It's fucking gone. It's fucking milliseconds.
Yeah.
So like I said, unless fucking Scotty or Spock was on the Millennium Falcon or Vader's TIE Fighter, there's no way he got out of there. But hey, it is all made up shit anyway, so you never know. You never know what you can get.
But I think we've kiboshed that one. That one's pretty well done.
So far, the first two I think are just very, very far stretches there. But you got to love the excitement people have now. And, that's why we're doing these casts. And it felt like for years there was none of this for Star Wars. Because, A, we didn't know movies were coming out, but we didn't know if 7 would be good. Now that we know it's good, all we want is to know what the fuck's going to happen next. Who's this? Who's that? Oh, my God, I need to know. So people start doing shit like this and coming up with Darth Vader's Snoke or Tarkin's Snoke. The next one I want to get into, And I'm going to put this one third, even though this is the one I'm kind of leaning for and the one I think is going to happen. But Supreme Leader Snoke is Darth Plagueis the Wise, who we know from Revenge of the Sith was Darth Sidious's master that he supposedly killed in his sleep.
This is my favorite.
Yeah, I said, to me, I think it's you could make the strongest case for it. I guess the one bummer though is, and I don't think it's canon anymore, so they can probably get out of it. But I guess there was, maybe you know more, Nick, but there was like a book, a comic, or something that showed Plagueis, and he wasn't as humanoid looking in the face as what we got with Snoke.
There was a novelization about Plagueis that released. Actually, it was one of the last novels, if I remember correctly, to release before Disney before the sale happened, and then Disney kind of killed the old canon. But yeah, he was a humanoid figure, but he was like longer, I guess you would say.
Well, I think the race they used, they're actually in Attack of the Clones in Dooku's little fucking conglomeration of people. I don't know if it's the banking clan representative or another one, but
yeah, I think it's something different. It wasn't the banking clan, because those were the it's gonna kill me because I can't remember it now, but it wasn't them, because like they're shorter. Like he was like the race that Plagueis was like they're really lanky looking, if I remember correctly, and then like their heads were elongated in a way.
Yeah. And the lanky thing could bode well for he is Snoke, because rumoredly the reason Circus had to do full mocap is because the character was going to be massive, and what we got was a hologram, so we still don't know his size. But they couldn't do the practical effect to have Circus play Snoke as himself.
Yeah,
so that's why he's full CG.
From what I read somewhere, and I can't find it, or I'll just have to dig a little bit further to find it, but I heard that he was like 7 foot plus tall.
Right. Like
at least 7 foot tall. So he's a big dude. There were, like you said, theories out there that he was like Yoda size, but I think that we can safely put those to rest.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be tall and lanky.
Yeah, so, and like you said, now that, the whole Legend series is non-canon, they don't really have to stick with that that portrayal of Plagueis in any kind of way. I'm already starting to confuse the names because I'm so convinced that this is the guy. But even in the canon stuff, we see, the mentions of him in episode 3, like we were talking about. And then Andy Serkis had an interview, and he says that Snoke is a quote unquote long range schemer. So like you said, like Matt's been saying, he's been around forever.
And we know dark side users are content having the long game play out, as we saw with Sidious. I mean, his plans took, 20 years or so to take over.
Exactly. And then that he has suffered a lot of damage. And if we go by what Palpatine was telling Anakin in episode 3, Plagueis being killed in his sleep, obviously he would have taken a lot of damage there. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's dead, though. And especially with Plagueis having that ability to grant life and to extend life. Like,
you hit the nail on the head, because, and if you do look at his face, you could make the argument that those are lightsaber wounds or lightning wounds. He's got like a slash here. His mouth, you can tell, was maybe slashed or burnt. And like you said, the fact that he was, I think he learned it from ancient Sith teachings, but I think he was the first modern Sith to actually be able to create life and possibly extend his own. So he very well could have got his ass beat and appeared dead, but somehow he was able to hold on to a thread. Sidious took off, and he just bode his time to build his strength up and wait for, his time to reinsert himself into the galaxy.
Yeah, and I mean, it would even give credence to, Snoke being Plagueis, that Snoke has this great kind of reverence towards Vader. And if we want to go into the whole, theory of Anakin's birth, obviously in the prequels, we know he didn't have a father. He was born immaculately, if you want to say it like that. And with Plagueis' character having this ability to create and sustain life just through the Force, you could make the argument that, Vader is the child of Darth Plagueis, and when he saw that Anakin turned into Darth Vader and supplanted himself right next to Palpatine in the Empire, he was like, okay, I'm going to let this play out, and then when Vader takes over, because he has a lot of faith in him, when Vader takes over, I'll reveal myself. And, I'll come out as, Darth Plagueis, the person, your father, the person who gave you life, and then try to use that as a bargaining chip to kind of work his way into the power structure or something like
the
that.
Chosen One theory is an interesting one, and unfortunately because of Lucas's introduction of midichlorians, we have to kind of account for those now.
Mm-hmm.
You could look at it two ways. I think Nick makes a good argument that potentially Plagueis injected Shmi with Force semen, or we can make the case that, if you believe in a Jesus, that just like the Holy Spirit gave Mary Jesus, the Force literally gave Shmi Anakin. So those are up for debate. We never know if they'll ever be fleshed out. Obviously Nick's theory is viable. There's no doubt about it. But the other thing that I think leads us to believe, or at least me, that he is Plagueis is, Kylo literally says to his dad when his dad's trying to shit talk Snoke, like, dude, hey, Kylo, or Ben, how can't you see what he's doing, man? He's using you for his own means, which that's what dark side users do. And he says, no, Supreme Leader Snoke is wise. That's just an odd way to describe your hero.
And especially in that moment, too, because it's not like him saying that the Supreme Leader is wise isn't even really a rebuttal to what Han is saying. So...
Well, yeah, he's almost like stating fact. Like, this dude, hey, by the way, his name used to be Darth Plagueis the Wise. Ha, ha, ha. And the other big indicator is that they use almost the same music that was featured in Episode 3 when they're in that, the fucking
theater.
Opera house.
Yeah.
And he's telling the story of Plagueis. It's the exact same fucking music when we're in Snoke's hologram room or holograph room.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of heavy hints that it is Plagueis. When I first heard it, I was kind of resistant to the fact, to the theory of it, just because I wanted to go into this movie fresh, and I didn't want to have any kind of preconceived notions as to who any of the characters were. But then, after seeing it and sitting on it, I've seen the movie 4 times in theaters already.
Yeah, I did 5. I'm good for now. I think I'm waiting for the Blu-ray at this point.
Yeah. But after seeing it so many times and then kind of working the theory into my prior viewings, it does make more sense to me that he is that character, that he is Plagueis. It just... And then, it fits well, and it would reduce the writing and the backstory that the team would have to do if you're introducing a brand new character.
Right, because that's a very good point. I didn't even think about that, because, they already have the burden of, we got to learn about Rey's backstory now. We should learn more about Finn. We should learn more about Ben. We should learn more about what the fuck Luke's been up to. So, like you're saying, it's like, do they really want to reintroduce a whole brand new character and have a backstory and whatnot? But if you think about the fact that as a dark side Sith master, people called him the Wise. Maybe he wasn't a fucking psycho like some, like a Darth Maul or some of these other one-off Sith lords. Obviously, he got the moniker the Wise because the dude was super smart. And typically, when you're super smart and wise, you have patience, you have control, and as Nick said, you can play the long game, and you can sit and you can wait for the perfect opportunity. And I really do. This is the one I'm leaning towards, people, is he's going to be Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that line up to make a good case for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if he ends up being Darth Plagueis, that fits into the way that Palpatine played his game. Palpatine played the long game, like you said, took 20 years before he could rise to power, but it doesn't matter. If you're playing the long game, you're not thinking about the time it's going to take. You're thinking about the eventual outcome. And obviously, this guy, Palpatine, he had a good premonitive kind of way about him. He could kind of see into the future. So he's like, I know how this is going to go. when things kind of started to look bleak, he was like, don't worry, I've seen it all play out, so I know where this is going. The only thing he didn't see was obviously his downfall, because he was just a cocky motherfucker.
Well, yeah, he thought Vader was his zombie, and Vader would never turn.
So he couldn't see that eventuality, but, I mean, for him to play it out like he did would lead you to believe that, he learned a lot from Plagueis. He learned the long game to, not try to jump in, cut somebody's head off, and be like, I'm fucking Sith Master.
Yeah.
He learned to do that from his master.
And Palpatine's Sidious, people, I mean, he's an impressive guy. I mean, he didn't get a lot of screen time in the original trilogy. We learned a little bit more in the prequels, but, I mean, this dude manipulated the entire galaxy by himself.
Mm-hmm.
By himself. He tricked all the fucking Jedi, the best Jedi in the galaxy, Yoda, Mace Windu. He fooled all of them. He fooled the Senate. I mean, he fooled the entire fucking galaxy. I mean, when you watch the prequels now, you pretty much, you look at the Jedis and go, these were the biggest bunch of fucking bozos ever. How can you say the Jedi are these great knights of the light side of the Force, and they couldn't see any of this shit that Sidious was up to. And he was doing it for 20 plus years before he actually revealed himself.
Yeah, and that's insane when you think about it. And that even gives more of an air to Plagueis, if that ends up being who Snoke is. Like, imagine the training, and imagine just the things that he taught Palpatine to be able to pull off that coup. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, Plagueis, in the kind of Star Wars universe that we know now and what's left as canon, you could look at Plagueis as probably one of the most powerful Force users, right next to Luke Skywalker and Vader in the galaxy, or in the history of the galaxy.
Off-topic question, but who do you think is ultimately stronger in the Force, Luke or his dad?
Oh man, I've been debating this for years.
Let's say, I'll even say pre-Vader, Anakin or Luke.
Okay. If it was just between Anakin and Luke, I would have to say Anakin. After the fall, just in the ability to use the Force, I would have to say Luke. But yeah, just the most powerful.
Well, I agree, because, I mean, Vader is born of the Force. Luke, you bring in Harry Potter reference, he's a mudblood. He's mixed. I mean, his mom, Padme, was not a Force user, but his dad was essentially, Force Jesus.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any debate about who is the strongest Force user in the galaxy. It was Anakin pre getting his shit fucked up by Obi-Wan. And it's just like you said, I mean, he may not have shown it as well as, other Force users have, but like they said in the movies, and I hate to have to fucking reference this, but like, Qui-Gon says it's the highest midichlorian count we've ever seen, even higher than Master Yoda.
Oh, Master, it's 20,000.
Yeah, it's like
stupid shit like that.
I mean, it's as much as it pains me. No, that is canon.
But that's what we have to go off of. There's no way around it.
I guess Lucas was sitting in his fucking ranch, and he was like, "We have to have some way to quantify the Force for this."
Jesus.
I mean, and that's what he came up with, was midichlorians. But yeah, like you said, Anakin's count was higher than Master Yoda, and I guess that Master Yoda was the highest anybody had ever seen prior to that.
Right.
So, I mean, when basically you're coming out and saying, like, this fucking 10-year-old kid has the ability to be stronger than the Grand Master Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally the Force in physical form.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what Anakin Skywalker was. All right, so the last one, this will be a quick one, because I think we've even teased it a bit, but the last theory about who Snoke is he's just a brand new fucking character. And, I mean, this one, obviously, we can't shit on it yet, because he very well could be. I think Nick made a fantastic point that if he is, that's a big burden on the new storytellers to flesh out a whole backstory that fits into all the stuff we know about this galaxy up until this point in time. But, I mean, that there is that possibility that he is just some dude. He's a mega Force user that we haven't heard about until now.
Yeah, they would have to do a lot of work in order for them to pull that off. I think what you would have to see for him to be a new character is hints of a clandestine dark force user in like the extended universe and like the new extended universe. So they would have to first introduce him in a novel or in a comic book, and then there would have to be that seed planted prior to the next movie. And I just don't think that they're gonna do it.
Yeah, they haven't done dick for him. I mean, he's not really mentioned anything.
Yeah, so just the way that they're working his character feels to me like they're just gonna say, like, they're working off of the assumption that you already have some idea who he is, even though you haven't equated that yet. You have an idea who the character is.
Right. Yeah, so that one's not really even worth diving into. I think when it comes down to it, and I'm speaking for myself, but I think Nick's on the same page. Our guess, or I guess our hope, is that Snoke is Plagueis.
Yeah, and I think that was a character that, when mentioned in episode 3, kind of pricked everybody's ears up.
You're of course it did. I mean, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Yeah, we're actually learning about Sidious's past a bit.
Mm-hmm. Like, right. It would do... I mean, it would play well with the new fans and the old fans to kind of, reveal Snoke as Plagueis, and then you have the opportunity to learn about this character who was, so strong he could create life in the Force. He trained a Palpatine, who then trained Vader. So there's this whole kind of dynamic with the Plagueis character that could play really well with all the fans.
He probably did get his ass kicked, and maybe that's why it took him so long to show himself again. Maybe he was just trying to recover for 40, 50 years. Who knows? But we know the Sith have patience. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. So before we go, Nick, just want to touch on a few random Star Wars movie news items I came across this week. Some of them are on entertainmentboo.com. Some are just coming out of my pie hole right now. But the first one is, if you want to get a look at the costumes from Star Wars Rogue One, they are on display at the Nuremberg Toy Fair right now. I've got some Instagram pics out there from some dude that was on the show floor. You can check them out. I'm kind of excited for that movie. Obviously, we'll probably dedicate a few of our Star Wars-oriented cast towards it, but I think Rogue One has serious potential to be an awesome one-off movie. The other little bit of news we got was that, I said it earlier, Bob Iger basically said Disney has no plans to ever stop making Star Wars and Marvel films, so that's good, I guess. I know some people in Hollywood are getting sick of the superhero deal. It's like, well, go fuck yourself. I mean, I think geeky movies are the best. I like serious movies too, but come on. I mean, you're making monies with the big name fucking comic book sci-fi flicks.
Yeah, I was going to say, as long as these, superhero movies and Star Wars movies are raking in the dough that they're making right now, I don't think they're gonna
shit's not going away.
I mean, them, so.
Force Awakens made almost $1 billion domestically in like 2.5 weeks. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
it's a license to print cash at this point in time.
Yeah, pretty much. And then like on the Rogue One note, I also read something that Vader is gonna play a bigger role than initially expected.
Well, yeah, I was gonna get to that. I saw something today. And I think this is something, again, once we could dedicate a whole cast to this, but apparently, either, people are looking for stunt guys to play Vader in Rogue One or this, that, and the other thing, but he's supposed to be extremely brutal. Like, I guess writers are throwing out ideas like, he's doing the fucking saber throw and cutting off people's heads. He's using the Force to pull stormtroopers in front of him to block fire. So yeah, like Nick said, we're supposedly we're going to get a very fierce and a much more active Vader than we saw in any of the old trilogy films. I mean, as much as I love the guy, Vader more or less, except when he was fighting his son, would just walk into rooms and just be an imposing presence.
Yeah.
He really wasn't fucking busting heads and kicking the shit out of people.
I would love to see that, man, because one of my favorite Star Wars games was the first Force Unleashed. Because like that, you've never gotten to see the Force use that powerfully in the movies
just
or the
pure
games. Pure
wanton death and destruction at the hands of the Force, without a doubt.
So if the very first thing you do in that game is you play as Vader and you just fucking wreck through Kashyyyk.
Right, and he literally can only walk. Like, you can't even run with Vader. He just fucking it's the same Vader in Disney Infinity 3.0. I know it's a kiddie game, but the Vader character, literally, he walks and that's it. Because he's a fucking badass. I mean, he's a tank. He's a walking tank. And hopefully we'll get to see that in Rogue One.
I would hope so. And then, like, I also heard rumors. Now this is like, I don't know if this was rumors or just like wild speculation, but like they were gonna throw Hayden Christensen in the suit for that movie, which like to me, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, as long as it's not his voice and it's not, you don't have shades of old Anakin.
Yeah,
like
I could care less.
He's already done the lightsaber training. Like if you watch the behind the scenes footage from like
fantastic.
episode,
I mean, physically, the dude was fantastic with his physical stuff, and quite frankly, his performance you have to blame on the fucking script for the most part. I mean, George made an Oscar winner look shitty. I mean, Natalie Portman has won an Oscar. She was, just awful. Some of those lines in Attack of the Clones, like, I love you. It was just fucking terrible. Like, vomit. I mean, Ewan McGregor looked like an asshole in Revenge of the Sith, and we know he's a fantastic actor. And honestly, Hayden, if you've seen any of his other projects, he's a good actor.
Yeah, I would say, like, I watched a lot of Hayden Christensen movies after seeing the Star Wars trilogy, and, like, it baffled me to how bad he was. And I was like, he wasn't, like, I think he was in this movie called Life as a House or something similar to that, and he was good in that. I saw this movie Awake that he was in. He was pretty good in that. I actually enjoyed the movie Jumper.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too.
I mean, the kid is not a bad actor, but like fucking George Lucas shit on his career, and he hasn't been able to work.
I was gonna say the poor guy literally is blackballed in Hollywood because of the prequels.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's a shame, but that's the Anakin George wrote for him, though, as a fucking whiny little bitch. I mean, again, George is the director; he's the one coaching these people how to bring these characters to life. So, and I do shit on Hayden because it's hard not to. He was the face that killed Anakin and Darth Vader's awesomeness, but I wouldn't have a problem if they put him in a suit, and they've already said they've got James Earl Jones signed up, so fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it would be a nice piece of redemption for Hayden to be able to get in that suit and then play a badass Darth Vader.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. You know, Hayden for Vader 2016. We just started the campaign.
Get the hashtag
I'll get some
going.
buttons made and some fucking bumper stickers.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, before we leave, the other thing today, Colin Trevorrow came out. He's a director for Episode 9, and he said two things. One, he wants to shoot on film, which, all right. I mean, JJ shot on film for 7. The reason Trevor wants to shoot on film is because he considers Star Wars a period piece. And I'm like, what?
Okay, that doesn't...
They have fucking hyperspace. I mean, they have spaceships and shit. Yeah, it's in a galaxy a long time ago, but it's not fucking Pride and Prejudice or, the fucking something in the 1400s. But whatever. And then the other thing he said, he'd really like to do some of these space scenes in space. Like real space people. Like he said, he wants to make the IMAX plates using footage from real space. So,
which to me, I mean, more power to him. Like if Disney's gonna give him the dough to go, to get those shots, then like I'd like to
they'll
see how
ship
it
up an
turns out.
IMAX camera to the fucking International Space Station. Be like, hey guys, on the next rotation of the Earth, can you go ahead and just get a couple just blank space shots for us?
Yeah, it's like we just need some B-roll for the some actual space B-roll. But I mean, at least it's, to me, that's just kind of signs that his brain's working. Like he's already getting like these little things that he wants to do. So it's good. He's got a few.
It's a little bit out, and it gets actually one item I forgot to bring up because I think it was last week, but episode 8 has been delayed 7 months now. It's going to be a December release now instead of a May, and one of the reasons they said they did is because they wanted Pirates to take the May slot, but also because I guess they had to do some script rewrites based on feedback from The Force Awakens and how much people loved the new characters, and I guess they had planned some other, I wouldn't say random characters, but secondary, tertiary characters. They plan to include them and show a little bit about their history. And I guess they're like, fuck it. Let's just focus on Rey, Kylo, Poe, and Finn.
Yeah, when you have those characters with those actors portraying them, give them as much screen time as you can.
Yeah,
like
who cares about some random resistance person or someone in the First Order? So
yeah, and I don't think that the amount of money that they made during the holiday season was any deterrent for them either. They were like, oh, we made $1.9 billion with a holiday release, with a Christmas release. I think it
makes sense. I mean,
be safe.
Star Wars has traditionally been a summer blockbuster type of franchise. I mean, so all the movies were in May up until Force Awakens. So hey, we it's another separation from George Lucas, I guess.
Yeah.
And extra development time, extra script time, extra shooting time is never a bad thing, really, when it comes to movies. It's not like video games, where typically delayed video games, it's probably for some sort of internal strife in the development house, or money lost or some bullshit.
And then it'll give everybody more time to kind of appreciate Rogue One after it's out too, because I mean the way that they had the slate set up, you got Rogue One coming out this December, and then you had
we're gonna have the next one in May.
Yeah, so you had a pretty quick turnaround time.
It's a bummer we have to wait, but fuck it.
At least we have something, hopefully good to tide us over.
The one-offs are nice. I like where the Star Wars stories are going. So, all right, people. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say one other quick thing that I wanted to pass by you that it actually just popped up to me. Did you see the casting choices for Han Solo?
They haven't nailed it down though, right?
I think they had it to like four people.
Yeah, I don't know the names. I know one of the dudes, like the kid in the Insurgent movies.
Yeah, he's one. And then, have you ever seen Perks? Did you see Fury?
Yeah.
The kid, the young kid from Fury is like one of the leading candidates.
Okay.
And then two others that are really kind of no names. Yeah, like
I'm gonna be honest with you. The young Han Solo one is kind of like for me right now. I don't know. Yeah. I'm more sold on the Boba Fett one because I think there's tons of story to tell with Boba Fett. I mean, there is no Boba Fett movie stories. I mean, he showed up in Empire, was smart enough to know that Han would be waiting in the trash so he could follow him to Bespin, and then he gets killed like a jerk off in Jedi.
Yeah, I've never seen a character with so little screen time get turned into such a badass.
No. So I don't know. I mean, hey, it's Star Wars. I'll consume it. Don't get me wrong, but that one I think they're gonna have to walk a very fine line, or they could fuck up an iconic movie character.
Yeah, don't screw with Han Solo too much.
Here, note to the people making it: just don't do what George did to Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker. I mean, that's what I feared that could happen with a young Han Solo movie, is that they completely fuck up an awesome character.
Mm-hmm. I mean, basically, the story that they're going to tell, if I take a guess, is going to be, Han and Chewie meet story. That's gonna be where they're gonna go with it, and I think that's gonna be something cool for the fans to see, because we've never really had an idea of where that came from. I think prior to the new stuff, there was like a story out there of how they met, but I mean, it's gonna be cool to see if they can put something together that really explains their backstory.
It was something like Han was either in the Imperial Navy or working for the Imperials, and the Trandoshans were slaving Wookiees, and he like broke them out, and they have life debts, so Chewie's like, all right, I'm yours essentially. But hey, I guess we'll find it out. All right, dude, well, that was a good time, and those of you listening, make sure to tune into the next one. I'm not sure when that will be going on, maybe within another week or so. You never know. If we get a bug up our ass, we'll fire up the mics, and we'll talk all things Star Wars. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us, speculating on who Supreme Leader Snoke could be. We know he's not Vader. There's a great chance he's not Tarkin. There's a very good chance he's Plagueis the Wise. And there's also a good chance that he's just someone we don't know about. So we'll, I guess, maybe find out in 2017. Maybe they'll wait until Episode 9. Who knows? But we'll definitely learn more as these Star Wars projects keep rolling out. So thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to go to entertainmentbuddha.com on a daily basis, because it truly will make you a better geek one post at a time. Bye for now.